Why did the A-list turn on Meghan Markle? Because trust me, they have. Senior Hollywood sources now telling me that any type of commercial tie-up with this woman who still describes herself as the Duchess of Sussex would now be considered so toxic to a Hollywood A-lister, it simply would not be palatable. Agents and PRs are having to tell their clients, avoid being pictured with this woman. Even if you are friends with her, even if you are at a Montecito event with her, refuse to be photographed under any circumstances. And it really does represent a decline of a woman who was so desperate to have that A-list as part of her life, they all received invites to her wedding to Prince Harry, even though many of those in attendance she had never met. So we're going to go do a deep dive today with Brittany, the editor of the Royal News Network, into just why it turned so bad for Meghan with the Hollywood A-list. But Brittany, I want to start first with an increasing paranoia and delusion in the head of Meghan Markle, who is consistently convinced that there is a plot against her, a plot to destroy her. And we saw it most recently with the launch of season 2 of As Ever, where she believed that it was some type of celebrity conspiracy that meant a whole load of major stories broke, including Taylor Swift's engagement, to take her attention away. But genuinely, Brittany, this is now delusion from the Duchess. And it's like, there was no plot against you, Meghan, when you were in the royal family. And there's no plot against you now. You've simply destroyed the most incredible opportunities that have been handed to you on both sides of the Atlantic.
Yes, and celebrities, the reality is they don't really care that much about Meghan Markle. Taylor Swift, of course, was probably completely unaware that Meghan's show launched the day she planned to launch her engagement. Now, it could also be that she knew and she didn't really care, but the reality is that Meghan is not an A-lister. She is still the C-D-lister that she always was. You could even say D-lister because you could say Duchess of Sussex D-lister. And they're just not interested. And the problem for Meghan has always been, once she did the Oprah interview, once they did Harry and Meghan, once Harry did Spare, anybody in Hollywood is looking at them going, if you're going to rag on your family, if you're going to reveal secrets about your family, what is going to prevent you from revealing a secret about me, who's just a friend, an acquaintance, somebody you know a little bit? And because they did everything for money, it immediately looks like they'll do anything for money. So they may, pat you on the back and tell you how much they love you in one instance, and then go share something to TMZ in the next. So there's just not a lot of trust, and most people just want to keep their distance. They may associate with her socially, privately, but I would say even then, they probably don't consider her a real friend. And that's a lot of Hollywood just generally, is that they don't really consider, they talk a lot of wonderful things about each other, but they're not really friends. And I think most people treat Meghan Markle that way.
Absolutely. And she deserves it, Brittany, because that is always how she's treated other people. I mean, if you look back to some of her previous friendships, for example, with the likes of Lizzie Cundy and Millie McIntosh, who were UK reality stars, who she thought that she needed at that point, she literally dropped them the moment that she started dating Prince Harry. Same with Piers Morgan too. But look, let's go into what she is convinced is a plot, because this is really fascinating reporting from Matthew Acton, who is a UK-based tabloid veteran with very good sources, Brittany, now writing for Radar Online. Look at that headline. Meghan Markle convinced there's a showbiz conspiracy to kill her Netflix show after Taylor Swift's engagement announcement totally eclipsed the launch of her latest series. And he writes, Meghan Markle believes her Netflix series has been hijacked by a wave of celebrity distractions, with friends telling Radar Online Taylor Swift's engagement announcement is the latest blow that has left her convinced of a coordinated conspiracy campaign against her efforts.
Industry joke of the week. We want the real royals at our table, not cosplay. Why did Hollywood's A-list cool on Meghan? Sources whisper it's simple math. High risk, low reward. The title dazzled at first, then deliverables didn't. Today, the guidance is blunt. No commercial tie-ups, no posed photos, keep it strictly cordial. B-roll, flash cuts of premieres, velvet ropes, phones turning away, a red carpet photographer lowering the camera.
She goes on to call this the dark PR arts theory. Now, Brittany, before I get into it, guess who commits dark PR arts? Okay, guess who has always connected dark PR arts? Meghan Markle, who hired Sunshine Sachs, the veteran Hollywood PR agency, well known for its dark PR arts. So what I would say is that if you play in the mud, then sometimes you're going to get a little bit dirty, okay? And she has played in the mud for a long time when it comes to dark PR arts, when it comes to trying to influence social media using bots and using paid PR. Samantha Markle has always been on that with her. And the use of the Sussex Squad, who are, you know, the biggest internet trolls in history. So look, I do think this whole idea that it's a conspiracy is ludicrous, but at the same time, she's hardly one to talk about other celebrities using dark PR arts because she's the queen of it. It's the only thing she'll ever be queen of, Brittany.
Well, and once you know how something works and you're guilty of using the same tactics, you see everybody else or you think everybody else is doing the same as you. Well, Taylor Swift doesn't really have to employ dark PR arts because she's Taylor Swift. She does anything and it's huge news. Meghan Markle just doesn't have that same, especially positive publicity. When your publicity is 90% negative, that puts you in a really, really difficult spot. And again, there are ways to kind of get out of that. But Meghan just can't do it because the one thing she can't do is be truthful. In my opinion, she lies really readily. And I see it and I go, oh, that just can't be true. And it's like, are you really saying that? Is that right or wrong or whatever? Meghan just is more than willing to do that. She comes across to people so much as fake. And when you kind of tear through relationships, you know, dropping Millie McIntosh, Jessica Mulroney, and all these sorts of people, it does come back to bite you at some point. And the reality is, at least for Meghan, in my personal opinion, like attracts like. Her good friends are people who are grifters like she is, because they're the only people she can really truly be friends with. Now, there's a lot of people in Hollywood like that, but again, I don't think people really trust her or Harry. And within the industry they're in, talent does matter, and Meghan has none. She doesn't really have any talent here. Her brand stinks. Nobody wants to be attached to that. Her show stinks. Everything is just been an absolute train wreck. And Hollywood, you know, if you get attached to that, your projects might suffer, and nobody wants that. So they're like, okay, well, I'll see you maybe at a party, but I don't want to invite you over. I don't want to be seen having lunch with you or anything. And that's pretty bad for Meghan.
Absolutely. And you're so right, by the way, when it comes to the lies. And I think it's actually the most disturbing thing about Meghan, but this is something that has been ingrained in her, Brittany, for a very long time. So actually, if there's one thing that she's always done, and I'm talking about long before she was ever with Prince Harry, is lying. And the problem is those lies now trap her because, of course, since she's been with Prince Harry, she's under so much more scrutiny than she ever was. Look, let me get back to this crazy conspiracy, because the insider speaking to Radar Online says Meghan is convinced there is a showbiz conspiracy to kill her momentum. She feels every time she has a big launch, something massive lands that overshadows it. She sees Taylor's announcement as part of that pattern. Meghan truly believes forces, including the royal family and dark PR arts, are being deployed in the background to keep her out of the spotlight after her attacks on the royal family. Another source added she worries there is a deliberate attempt to clip her wings and sees herself as a Princess Diana type figure in this way, as she is convinced the royals are out to get her. Now, Brittany, this is where I have a problem, okay? This is where I have a real problem, because this is where she is truly twisted.
In this town, discretion is currency. After tell-all interviews, a docuseries, and a memoir from the household, the A-list read one thing: oversharing. Supporters say it was catharsis. Critics call it a warning. If private royal texts end up public, what about mine? Agents and PRs hate unknowns, and nothing is more unknown than what might end up on camera later. B-roll, blurred text bubbles, NDAs, a publicist whispering, a calendar with embargo circled.
And her relationship and marriage with Prince Harry is truly twisted, because I absolutely believe this. I know she's done it. We know how she's invoked Princess Diana. We know how she's convinced Prince Harry that they're trying to kill him like they tried to kill Princess Diana. He even referred to it in his ludicrous BBC TV interview earlier in the year. But to me, this is a step too far. It is really way too dark, Brittany. No one ever wanted to get rid of Meghan Markle in the way they wanted to get rid of Princess Diana. Ever, ever, ever. And I think what she does by making these comparisons to Princess Diana is not only delusional, and we can laugh at it, but the problem is, and I don't have sympathy for him, as you know, but it has been massively detrimental to the mental health of her own husband. And I think it's a step too far.
I have to agree. I think Meghan evoking the memory of Diana, and Harry, of course, is guilty of it as well, is really disgusting, because their situations were just simply not the same. And it becomes to the point of almost weirdness, as you almost feel like they're sort of begging for something to happen to justify the insanity. And it's like, why do you want this? Why are you completely and utterly obsessed with this? It comes across as very strange, very weird, very off-putting. And I think as a couple, it would benefit them so much to just let the Diana comparison go. Meghan's nothing like Princess Diana. They are completely different women, had a completely different experiences, and they have nothing in common except for Harry, and obviously I think some of maybe their worst qualities. But Meghan is nothing like Diana. They need to stop this. It's very disturbing, and I think obviously it has immensely damaged in many ways Harry's mental health too. And I'm sure, of course, William was aware of that and very disturbed by that, as well as he should be.
Indeed, because this source goes on to say, Brittany, but the reality is she's deluded and of no real interest compared to an A-lister like Taylor. Indeed, despite liking Swift's engagement post on Instagram after she announced she and Kelsey are due to get hitched, Meghan is said to have been seething privately, according to one source. We can reveal the Duchess, who once attended Swift's Eras tour in Los Angeles, has also told friends she is, quote, beyond frustrated. Her lifestyle brand cannot seem to secure any level of celebrity endorsement. As Radar Online has reported, Dolly Parton's recent refusal to appear on With Love Meghan is understood to have hit particularly hard. A source close to Meghan said the Dolly situation was devastating. Meghan thought a collaboration would bring her instant credibility. When Dolly declined, Meghan became convinced Kate Middleton's influence was behind it. She tells people there is a quiet effort to undercut her, orchestrated from across the Atlantic and the royal family. Now, this is a really interesting one for me, Brittany, because I can understand why in Meghan's head she is deeply upset, because Dolly Parton is one of the world's most generous celebrities. She gives so much of her time. I mean, I've spent time with Dolly over the past years, and she gives a lot of time. She always wants to be part of other people's projects, and she does so much recording, for example, both in terms of musically, other TV specials, interviews. She is for someone who to me is an icon, you know, is one of the world's icons, Dolly Parton. She is very accessible. And it is hugely significant that she said a total hard no to Meghan Markle, because that's not her usual shtick. But of course, it doesn't suggest that Catherine is personally telling Dolly Parton not to do it. What it suggests is that Dolly Parton is a real Anglophile. I know that. You know, I've spent time with her in London. And of course, she's not going to want to offend the British royal family. So it's like, yeah, I can understand that you would be devastated by it, but to try and suggest that this is because of Catherine is where it gets pretty ridiculous.
Rumors say Meghan sees a coordinated effort that steals her spotlight whenever she launches. Hollywood's response: the news cycle doesn't orbit anyone. Power players drop announcements whenever it suits them. And if your rollout can be toppled by one engagement post, that's not sabotage, that's soft strategy. B-roll split screen, brand launch timeline versus major pop culture headlines stacking over it, search results reshuffling.
Yeah, Meghan in this instance just doesn't have a big connection to reality here. And they're not, let's say, against Meghan or not interested in investing in Meghan because they let's say necessarily because of Catherine or something like that. Her brand is toxic. And they're really thinking about, I'm saying there in terms of celebrities, the broader royal family. They're much more interested in hanging out with the real royals than the cosplay ones. Because the real royals, they have influence, they have prestige, they have the ear of government officials and these sorts of things. Whereas Meghan is just constantly shuffling through a new identity every week. And you just got to wonder too. So Meghan went to the Eras tour of Taylor Swift and did not get, as far as we're aware, a personal meeting or a picture with Taylor Swift. Whereas Prince William, Prince George, and Princess Charlotte did. And I think it's a reflection of the broader sense of where celebrities lie, especially in some of those A-list circles, is that they want the royals to come to their events. They don't really care about Meghan Markle. The mistake Meghan Markle made, which is actually one that Sarah Ferguson didn't make, is really separating herself so severely from the royal fold. Because what has made Meghan Markle, you could say, interesting at this point is that royal connection, and that's it. There's a reason why she was only a bit player on Suits. Her blog, The Tig, was middling, hardly anybody knew about it, and she was constantly struggling to get spotlight because as herself, she's not really charismatic, she's not really talented that much, in at least the way she's trying to promote, and people just weren't interested. The interest comes from the royal family. When you separate yourself from that, your interest dwindles automatically because they're like, well, I want to hang out with the real royals. I don't want to hang out with you.
No, I know, totally. And the thing is that the Duchess is said to be hugely jealous of the constellation of stars now aligned with William and Kate, according to this article in Radar Online, from David and Victoria Beckham to George and Amal Clooney. Well, again, it's like you completely messed up with both of those couples, Meghan, especially David and Victoria Beckham, because you wrongly accused Victoria Beckham of leaking stories, which was a total nonsense and very, very embarrassing and totally unforgivable. And with George and Amal, you treated them like pieces of meat by inviting them to your wedding and then actually never put the work in. But one Hollywood acquaintance said when Meghan and Harry first moved to California, they were celebrated as Hollywood's new power couple. But over time, A-listers have drifted back towards the monarchy. Meghan feels that isn't organic. She thinks it's being managed. But it's like it's not being managed, Brittany. It's not being managed at all. It's simply the fact that these celebrities know which side their bread is buttered on. And also, they want that sort of connection to royalty. I mean, Taylor Swift, who is a very shrewd marketing woman, knows that she's far more famous than Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in America, but she also knows that something that increases her clout and kudos and her legacy, because remember, a lot of these very big names, Brittany, the Clooneys and the Beckhams and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, they're not so concerned about money, but they are concerned about how they go down in history, how they are remembered. And being friends with a future king and queen, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It is. And you have to think about it this way as well. When it comes to celebrities, I mean, especially with the growth of social media, you know, you have TikTok stars, YouTube stars. It's much easier to become a quote unquote celebrity. The threshold for entering into that sphere has been lowered a lot because it used to be you had to be on a television show, and even then you were lower tier than a movie star. But the world has changed a lot, and the definition of celebrity has changed so much, as some reality TV stars are more famous than actual actors. But when it comes to royalty, you can't buy your way in most of the time, And you can't, let's say, achieve it. It's not something you can work hard to achieve. You're either born into it or you marry into it. It is a level above celebrity that most celebrities are in awe of because it's just so unique, so interesting, such a closed group. And so I think a lot of celebrities look at Meghan Markle too going, you married into the British royal family. The Queen was your grandmother-in-law. You stood on the balcony of Buckingham Palace and you gave that all up to grift with us in Hollywood? Really? Because to them, that is impressive. The balcony is impressive. Meghan shilling as ever or on With Love Meghan is not impressive to them. And I think that's a huge difference as well. And why, again, so many celebrities gravitate to royals because they can't be that. They're entranced by it. And Meghan Markle and Harry just sort of diminish themselves all the time with the separation, which again, Meghan thought she could bring the sparkle of the royal family to California. It just doesn't work that way, though.
Totally. But the thing is, Brittany, she did have a chance too. I mean, things were nowhere near as bad as they are now. So if you look at archetypes, for example, she had Mariah Carey, she had Paris Hilton. These are household names. And there is no conspiracy. What there is connected to these projects is failure. And even big stars have seen through the lies and they don't want to be part of it. Now, what's interesting in this Radar Online piece is that Netflix executives actually privately dismissed talk of sabotage because they're sane, right? They're sane. Netflix know there's no sabotage going on here. But friends say that Markle views the timing of celebrity news cycles as evidence everyone is backing away from her. A source said every time she promotes something, she feels like another celebrity announcement drops that takes the attention away. It leaves her paranoid, but also determined. Meghan says she won't be pushed out of Hollywood, but she's just viewed as a toxic moaner and no one of any real status wants caught up in her orbit. And that is true, but it wasn't always the case. And unfortunately, she has no deliverables. There's nothing that people now want or need to be associated with.
Star gravity moved back toward the monarchy, not because of secret memos, because access, legacy, and prestige sit there. You can buy billboards, you can't buy a balcony. Ad-reported rifts and faded wedding day acquaintances, and the social math got brutal. Fewer organic allies, fewer warm intros, fewer yeses. Even friendly names don't want to be seen endorsing a volatile brand. B-roll, tasteful cutaways of state receptions, gala seating charts, invite envelopes stamped, regretfully declines.
Yes, and when it comes to, let's say, celebrities, overshadowing With Love Meghan and her latest product launch, with Taylor Swift's engagement announcement, the reality is you can't plan what other people are doing. They are going to operate in their own sphere, and the world and the Hollywood does not revolve around Meghan Markle. And so as a smart business person, you have to plan around unexpected events. And if she can't plan around those, you will be caught flat-footed. And it's not a conspiracy. It's just you being a bad business person and you being bad at marketing and branding and establishing patterns for your brand. Because you not only will maybe a celebrity outshine you, but a world event, a disaster, a war, a conflict, something like that can overshadow what should be your quote unquote big day. And if you are a smart person in Hollywood, you plan for that. And Meghan didn't with the latest launch again of With Love Meghan and As Ever. She dropped everything on one day and Taylor Swift took her thunder. And you can't plan for that. And if she would have expanded the launch and done a lot more and clever marketing leading up to that, she might not have gotten caught so flat-footed. But she seems to think, again, that the whole world revolves around her. And when you think like that, and the world doesn't obviously revolve around you, you will be caught in disasters probably pretty frequently because you're not thinking strategically. And there's nothing strategic about any of Meghan's brands, shows, anything. She just thinks her name sells it. And that's just not the case. That's just not reality.
So where to now, Brittany? Because isn't the issue for her that she needs celebrity endorsements because of the world that she's now in? She needs celebrities who want to be part of her Netflix projects because that is the world that she's now in. But they don't want a bar of it. So what does she do? How does she deal with that? Because we know, for example, that's why she decided to sign Chrissy Teigen, who's just on screen there, because Chrissy Teigen is a big name, but she's, I guess, a fellow fallen star, a cancelled star, but she can't really keep turning to people like that. So is she now just going to accept that she doesn't really have these big celebrity endorsements? I mean, even her attempts, for example, Britney, to get on side with the Kardashians are failing of late. I mean, we did have, I think, one post from Chris, one post from, it was either Courtney or Chloe. I think
it was Chloe.
But it wasn't a big endorsement. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like the it was like the
it was
least
a throwaway
they could do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just don't think she is going to. I don't think she's going to make inroads. To be honest, Dan, I just don't think she'll ever. She needs to. I think. I mean, she constantly says, "I'm working so hard on As Ever." Well, Meghan, I see your products, I see your copy, I see everything, and it's obvious you're not working that hard on it. If she wants, I think, to get people back on her side, she needs a hit in one way or another, whether that's a show, whether that's the products. I mean, preferably it is without the connection to the royals. But the problem is that she's dug herself such a deep hole with everything her and Harry have done that I just don't know if she'll ever fully climb her way out of it. But as Americans, we do believe in, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and everything. So if she could turn, let's say, coal into gold, I think people would sort of shift back. But I think Meghan's true problem is how she's treated the royal family. I think until she makes amends with them, she will never and kind of publicly, obviously, offer her apologies in one way or another and make inroads rather than just going, "Oh, Harry, you and I can do this on our own." She'll never recover. That's reality. She will never ever recover without making amends in one way or another. No matter what she does, unless she has a huge breakout product or a huge breakout show, which I just doubt, that's her only route.
Well, then, Brittany, she's finished. And I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll tell you why, to sum up. Because she can never make amends with the late Queen Elizabeth II or Prince Philip. She can never do it. They're gone.
And she can't say she's wrong.
I mean, I guess she could admit she was wrong about that, but I think people will always think, yeah, but you let them die with that hanging over them, with the, with the fact that you were trying to destroy the Queen's work in the Commonwealth. I think you've just raised the critical point, which is that actually sometimes you can never make amends for your actions because it's too late. Maybe she could try with Charles, maybe she could try with William, but as you say, very unlikely to admit she's wrong. But a fascinating discussion nonetheless. Thank you so much. That is Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network. Do make sure you subscribe to the brilliant Royal News Network on YouTube. And thank you so much, Brittany.
There are only 2 scripts left. The hit, one undeniably strong project that works on its own craft. No titles, no nostalgia, no controversy bait. That rebuilds trust faster than any press release. The humility arc, mend fences, reduce the volume, let work speak for a year. Consistency beats virality. Because here's the A-list reality. They don't need a duchess. They need a safe bet. Until the brand feels safe again, the guidance stays the same. Smile in private, pass on the photo, and keep it moving.